Hey, I'm Aresh. I'm a mix engineer and I work with Bainz out of Crosby Studios in LA. Just wanted to give you guys a rundown of this awesome room that I'm super lucky that I get to work out of. I want to give you a rundown of the various pieces of equipment in this room, our system, and how each piece of equipment is used in the mix phase. So yeah, let's start with, we use Pro Tools system. Obviously, it's an HD system, and that's the industry standard for mixing and recording, and that's what we've been using for a number of years. Bainz and I went to school and studied Pro Tools extensively, so we're both familiar with it and use it on a daily basis. There are things in this room that stay the same in terms of the chain that they're in terms of like a mix bus. There are a few pieces of gear that don't really change in the mix bus, and a lot of the other things, because this room has a lot of toys in it, as you can see, so certain things go in and out as inserts, and certain things stay on the mix bus. So I'm just going to break those down for you and show you which ones are things that we might just print on the vocal, you might just use on the music bus, you might just use on the bass, and other things that stay the same across the entire mix. So the most important thing in a critical listening situation are the speakers. So I just want to give you a brief overview of the speakers that we have in this room. We have a set of Amphions. We have the PMC 82s and the mains, the Ocean Way mains, along with 2 Ocean Way subs. Majority of the time we're using the PMCs because they're super accurate, very transparent, and translate super well. We found that mixes take a lot less time, and they just translate to places like cars and headphones and even just this phone speaker in a way that's better than any other speaker we've ever tested out. And each speaker gives us a perspective on different things in the mix. Like I like using the Amphions because they're more kind of tubby and boxy sounding. So if you have stuff that like is building up in the low mids, I feel like the Amphions kind of bring that out and you can kind of hone in on that. And the PMCs are super crystal clear and you can hear delicate transients, you can hear compression and reverb tails in ways that, like I said, I've not heard in other speakers. And of course, Bainz agrees with that. That's why they're in this room. So yeah, that's the monitor situation. Let's go rack by rack and we can break down what's going on exactly. So like I said, there are a lot of pieces of equipment that I use specifically for inserts and move in and out of this room. We get a lot of things to demo and try out. So certain things you see here today might not be there next week, or we might get something else new. So right now we've been using this VLC Hazel rig. We've been using it for a couple of years. There's another one on the other side of the room. There's so many applications for this. We've actually tracked a lot of vocals through this in one of the other studio rooms. It's got an incredible Pultec type EQ. It's a tube-based unit. And just even if everything is flat and you just run a signal through it, it just does something that's quite magical. It just smooths out transients and just fills out a sound in a way that's really cool. We have the Blueface 1176, a classic. These two being borrowed temporarily, and we've been having some fun with those. If you go a little bit further down, we have a regular patch bay, a TT patch bay. We have a Flock, which we're no longer using right now, and we just got this brand new Wolf Audio patch bay, which is a huge addition to the room, and super excited to keep using it. It's transparent, it's clean, it's got a lot of flexibility, a really solid addition to the room. And it's so transparent, it's the same as connecting 2 pieces of gear as though they're connected right into each other. So that's really cool and exciting. We have an Apollo. We mainly use this just for the UAD plugins and for the computer audio as well. Below that, we have a Burl B2 Bomber, and that's the last stage after all the analog gear goes out and through the mix bus and comes back. This is the input of the through track on the mix itself. So this goes AES into the HDIO at the bottom. The Burl has a particular sound, of course, like your A to D conversion has an impact on your sound, it has an impact on your headroom, has an impact on overall distortion levels, and we both love how the Burl sounds. There are other options out there, but Bainz is stuck with his Burl for a number of years, and he definitely, if I remember correctly, he said it's like one of his desert island pieces of equipment because he loves the way it clips. It cuts off transients and gives you a good amount of headroom. The next piece of equipment this is the first thing that the 4 auxes, all drums, all vocals, all effects, and all music, when it leaves the Pro Tools HD system, this is the first piece of equipment it hits. It's the Neve Portico summing mixer. So we have stereo pairs of various channels on this Portico. We have other pieces of equipment that are actually plugged directly into the Portico. Like we have the Bricasti output is directly plugged into the summing mixer, as well as a distressor across the room that's directly plugged into the summing mixer as well. And yeah, just the summing mixer gives some sort of glue. It gives all the generic thing people like to say. It gives like glue and warmth and depth, but it's definitely an essential part of the room, and it's the first thing that all various stems hit before it starts going into various pieces of gear. So you have multiple stems and auxes hitting this that condense it into two separate tracks, left and right, and then that goes on its own journey to different parts of equipment in the room. Below that, we have a clariphonic. That tends to get used on music, and even just on its default setting without any of these knobs boosted up, it just has a sound. It kind of opens things up in an interesting way. It's a parallel EQ, so it's more forgiving than a direct EQ if you crank some of the knobs. That's a cool thing to use sometimes on vocals, sometimes on music itself. We used to use it on the mix bus for an album or two back in a couple of years ago, but it's not made its way on the mix bus any point recently. This is a Black Lion modded HDIO. The master clock is a Black Lion clock. It's super accurate, and most things in this rack, whether it's the APB that's below, the burl, they're actually clocked to the master of this HDIO. And I believe the inputs and outputs are modded as well with op amps or on the line inputs and outputs as well for additional coloration of the sound. So that's a very cool unit. And below that, we have the Matrix Studio, the Avid Matrix Studio, and all of our inserts run on the Matrix Studio. So we use the hardware inserts, and that's the unit that we use to move signal in and out of the digital to analog domain. That's the unit. Below that, we have the APB, McDSP. There's 3 or 4, so to speak, plugins that the APB provides. It's actually an interesting unit because it has analog processing, but the actual control is done through software. So you can pull up a plugin just like a regular in-the-box plugin, but it's actually controlling the unit separately. So you can have like a plugin that we love using. It's called the Chicken Head on the vocals. So it looks like a plugin, like I said, but the signal actually goes out, gets processed through analog chips and circuitry, and comes back in. So there's no recall. You can automate the plugin as well, and it sounds great. So that's a unit we've been using for a while, and I can't remember the last time that we've done a mix where one of the chicken head or the MuX mixer haven't been on the mix. So that's also like a pretty essential part of the room. Below that, we have a de-esser. We haven't really used that in a while, but it was cool when we were using it. It's a SPL de-esser. So on the right side rack, we have another Hales Rig Industries VLC. Like I said, it's just great to run signal through it and does something that's quite magical to audio. Below that, we have a Betamaker tube. It's a Pultec style passive EQ, and that's actually got a digital control. So sometimes we can put it across a vocal, and there's no recall because there's a digital control in the boxes that we can use to adjust the various settings on this thing. And it's cool. It's got a really cool, I think, 28K boost. That's kind of just a gentle, really wide slope. So if you just kind of crank that 28K, it's so high up, but obviously that shelf reaches quite low down, and it probably starts at, I'm not sure, but just to my ears, maybe like 10, 8K or something. And it kind of has a really nice, cool, overall like sparkly air type sound to it. And it's got a cool low end too if you just want to crank low end on like an 808 or something. So that's a cool unit. It's got tubes in it. This is the first piece of equipment we've come across that actually sits in the mix bus permanently. This is the SSL Fusion. Back when this room didn't have so many toys and was this cool, it was just the SSL Fusion, and that was the only thing that was across the mix bus. And that was quite a few years ago, but now it's been a part of our sound for so many years, and it's just like if I could describe it, it's just like a mojo box. It's like a juice box. It has a bit of everything. It has stereo imaging, it has distortion, it has EQ, it has a filter. It's got a bunch of cool things, and just putting it in and out, it just lifts up the mix in a way and gives it beef that is just kind of interesting and really adds to the sound, and it's like really essential since we've had it since day one. So this is the piece of equipment that Bainz has had. We actually had 2 at some point, and we were running through stuff through 2 fusions at the same time. We just loved what it gave to the sound. So this sometimes gets removed from the mix bus temporarily to like put across the music bus, and we just print stuff through the music bus. It's got a drive function, and I sometimes just hit this drive and just do that and then print that, and that just sounds great. There's just so much hairy distortion that comes out of it when you crank it up so much, and it's just something cool and fun to experiment with. So yeah, this lives on the mix bus, every single mix. When the second you turn on the mix and pull the template in, the Fusion, the whole mix is running through the Fusion. So below that, you can see the distressor going pretty ham on the vocal. This has existed for a while. It's a parallel distressor, and it's blended in against the processed vocal, and it's kind of like a squashed, distorted, compressed version. It's like a very typical thing that people do to vocals, have some sort of parallel compression on it. So this is the parallel compressor of choice. We've tried a number of ones in the box. We used to have a 76. And this is a setting I came up with and A-B'd it a lot. And it's kind of stuck this way and I don't really touch it. We just kind of feed level into it and it just gives like the vocal attention. It gives a little bit of bite and distortion and like a little bit of juice, again, using that word. And yeah, just kind of cool. And there's a second distressor, but we don't really use that for much. It's just kind of cool to have a pair of them. But the first one's the one that actually gets used a lot, and it's on every single vocal pretty much. Below that, we have another version of this Better Maker EQ. This is the non-tube version. It's like a stereo passive Pultec style EQ. Below that, we have a Better Maker limiter. This is really cool to put on like your drums and bass bus. We have all the drums and bass running through one aux. And if you want some sort of distortion or clipping and limiting, this is a cool insert to use across the drums and bass. This is also software controlled. So you don't actually have to go and twist any of these knobs, and it recalls perfectly because the recall is in the box. So again, it actually has a lot of different things in it. It has a clipping function, it has a saturation function, it has inbuilt limiting. Obviously, it is a mastering limiter, but we tend to not really use it across the entire mix. It's generally used just in the drum bus. It's used on the drums and bass, or in those type of situations where you just need a little bit more level and a little bit of clipping that this box does, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's the situation we'd use it in. There's a Chandler Germanium. It hasn't been used in a while. It used to be used on vocals. The input and output's kind of sensitive. It's kind of difficult to kind of put it into a certain space because the levels can get kind of hairy with this one and difficult to manage, but it is cool. It is definitely adds some warmth and takes out some harshness in vocals and stuff, but we haven't used that in a while. But yeah, that's a cool piece of equipment, and it has been used in a number of vocals in the past. So let's move on to the actual desk, where we have stuff that is easily reachable by hand. Again, the Fusion is a piece that exists in the mix bus, and these two together also essential to the mix bus and exist on every single mix. The second the template gets pulled up, Fusion, the Portico master bus processor, the VT5 phone EQ, and at the bottom there, but there's an NG bus comp that exists on the mix bus chain as well. Again, these settings don't really change much. Again, with the Fusion, there's certain settings we like to set it at, and it kind of stays there, and we might change a knob or two, depending on the song. This thing is very cool, the phone EQ. It's essentially flat. If you could look at all the settings, there's actually no boosts or cuts, except for one cut at 28K at about -10. And that's the default starting point for most mixes. We don't actually change that much. We just kind of leave it at -10. And just the unit itself has so much coloration. It adds cool harmonics. It like evens out the sound in a way that's really unique. And when you take it in and out of the mix bus, it just feels like the mix kind of falls flat a little bit. And it's just an incredibly made, incredible sounding, just really wonderful piece of equipment. And so lucky I get to use this on a daily basis. It's just a beast. It's just awesome across the mix bus. And sometimes we do take it out of the mix bus and put it just in a vocal, running a vocal. Like again, these are all incredible tube-based pieces of equipment, and just running a vocal flat through this thing. Even just like one boost at 16K and nothing else, that's enough to give the vocal what you need. Just the tubes in it even out the vocal, takes out low end, adds thickness, removes harsh resonances, adds air, and like it just does all sorts of cool things. So then we have the Portico 2 master bus, again, sits on the mix at all points. And again, we don't really touch too much on this. There's this blue silk, which adds a lot of the low end that we get from the mix. And in this particular mix situation, we have an additional low boost from the low depth EQ. But again, it's just one or two things that actually change on this master bus when we're actually mixing. So yeah, moving to the left side of the desk, this kind of stuff gets used a lot less. It's all 500 series stuff, which go on inserts. Occasionally, some of these units might be used on a vocal, might be used on instruments or keys. But the main thing on this left side of the desk that actually gets used a lot is another Better Maker compressor. This sits by default in the template on the key bus / music bus, and it just adds like a dB or two of compression on the overall music of the mix. It does have a harmonic function in it, so I think by the default in the template it's at like 5%. So it does have a little bit of a harmonic drive in it. But basically, just to control transients and just add a little bit of volume and depth to the music bus. Yeah, we have a couple of interesting pieces on this 500 series with the AHRK full textile EQs. We have these actually these Hazel Rig VLCs that I've been talking about. They have a 500 series, and we have the preamp, we have the compressor and the solid state compressor and the tube EQ as well. We just got these in, so going to experiment with those. So yeah, that's pretty much, again, everything that would be used on this side of the desk is just kind of inserts that go in and out, apart from this Better Maker bus compressor, which lives on our mix template. So every piece of equipment that we have that the whole mix runs through is very carefully gain staged. It took multiple months of testing this piece of equipment because there are level pots on this, and to get the exact level to go to the next piece of equipment and gain staged into the Fusion and then gain stage into the Neve mix bus processor, everything is in very small increments. Like this mix bus processor is adding probably a couple of dB of gain. This Neve that's feeding that is adding a couple of dB of gain as well, and everything is perfectly gain matched to hit the burl at exactly a certain level so it doesn't overload, it doesn't clip too hard, and then the output of the burl is matched to the input of certain plugins that we have in the mix bus. So everything it's taken multiple months and even years to slightly adjust. Like if I want to add a dB on one piece of equipment, it takes multiple iterations and multiple tries to get that right. So that's why at this point, I think I'm on mix template number 17 because I'm always adjusting stuff in the box and outside the box to get a cohesive sound, because when you're working under pressure, you want to be able to switch certain pieces of equipment on, switch certain plugins on, and already get a good foundation to start. And that you want to have all your work previously done. You don't want to be scrambling on the spot, especially when you have tight deadlines. So when I have downtime and I'm always trying to fiddle with certain things here and there just to get that half dB here, just to hit the mix bus a little bit harder, to get a little bit more fullness from the sound. I'm always thinking in those contexts and in those ways to try to speed up the workflow, improve the overall sound, and just end up with a more cohesive, better sounding product. So that's what I'm always thinking, and I'm always tweaking. But yeah, it's always an incredible process to just be part of the work that comes out of this room, and super grateful I get to thanks to Bainz, I get to work in this room and work on some awesome projects as well. Just want to say thanks for watching. Really appreciate your time, and I hope some of these concepts and the way we use equipment was informative, and really appreciate you taking time to tune in.